When you're using a symbol, these are some of the things that you really want to think about. Okay, I've attached here an image of the raised fists for Black Lives Matter, um, and we're gonna analyze how this symbol was really created. Okay, so number one, you really only need to use the important parts of the object, right? Remember that the ideas we're trying to reduce the amount of detail and the amount of noise that's in your image. So if you have like this artist could have just drawn like a photorealistic hand, right? A photorealistic uh, just fists raised up in the air, right? But we have to think about why this artist decided to go with this very simplified version, right? Number one, uh, I mentioned earlier, right? The simpler it is, the easier it is to reproduce. And That's kind of the biggest thing. Pretty much anyone can learn how to draw this. And or run it through a copy machine instead of having to use a color copy printer. You can just use a black printer, right? A black ink printer. Now, in order to simplify it, you really only need to find the important parts of the object that make the object what it is, right? So it's really important to say that this is a fist, right? This isn't just an open hand. This is specifically a fist. So how do we communicate that it's a fist? Number one, you can see the closed fingers, right? When you have your fist like this, you can see that your fingers are no longer long shapes anymore, right? They are shorter, more rectangular pieces, right? So closed fingers, these shapes represent closed fingers. The thumb is on top of the other fingers, right? Not underneath, okay? And that helps communicate that this is actually a fist, right? And just a hand in general, right? Um, and the shape of the hand is more circular rather than rectangular, right? If it's rectangular, then it's longer, but we have a more circular shape instead, and that helps communicate that it's a fist. So how did the artist use the symbol, right? We know that it's a raised fist because it's pointing upwards, right? It's not a fist that's being used for violence, right? A punch, because if it was a punch, you would see the thumb at the bottom and you would see the fingers lined up like so, and you wouldn't really see the palm of your hand, right? So that's how you know that this is a fist. That's how you know it's a raised fist, right? Representing rising in power, right? Um, their voice being their form of power. So an artist filled it with a bold black value. And not only is it easier to reproduce, as I mentioned earlier, this symbol is supposed to represent the Black Lives Matter movement, right? So that black fist represents the black people that are kind of being promoted in this symbol, right? If it was a white fist, then it wouldn't really make sense for the context, right? Even though it would technically be easier to just draw lines or to make those shapes, it was really important that the artist actually filled in those shapes instead of just leaving the lines because of the context that it's being used for. Um, so now that we understand how to analyze this, and now that we understand kind of like what the artist was originally thinking, we can now make our own version.